I had some experiences in Houston where some of the brokers for some of the large tenants asked for fees in order to show the deal to their tenants, or they were taking some of their tenants on, let's call it sex trips to Mexico. I realized I'm not going to play those games and was losing out on deals. There's one deal that was extremely transformative to Rockstep. We started this business in 1997, and we did a series of 4 large Walmart supercenter anchored developments in the Houston region. And then around 2003, 2004, 2005, we were working on another one in a city called Navasota, Texas. Navasota is about 10 miles outside of College Station, between College Station and Houston. Call it about 60, 70 miles. And there was a 40,000 square foot Walmart. And I knew that Walmart was planning to create supercenters and basically add groceries to their non-grocery formats. And I thought Navasota was between Houston and College Station. It would be a market where they would want to do a supercenter. And so I put under contract a tract of land where I thought they would go, basically behind their existing store. I found out that a company called Tractor Supply wanted that same location, and I decided, Walmart wasn't coming, let's build a Tractor Supply. So that was my first experience with Tractor Supply, and I developed a very, very good relationship with the company. And a guy named Tim Helsher, who was the head of real estate, who was the head of real estate for Texas and Louisiana and other states for Tractor Supply, asked me, or I asked him, and he said, yes, could we do a series of developments for Tractor Supply? And he said yes, and he gave me a territory, and that territory was Southeast Texas and Southern Louisiana. And we ended up doing, I believe, 11 or 12 Tractor Supplies in cities like Orange, Texas, in Crowley, Louisiana, in Opelousas, Louisiana, in non-major metros, small towns. And I started operating outside of the metros in these smaller towns, and I realized what a great place to work. I had some experiences in Houston where some of the brokers for some of the large tenants asked for fees in order to show the deal to their tenants, or they were taking some of their tenants on, let's call it sex trips to Mexico. And I realized I'm not going to play those games and was losing out on deals. And when I started working in these smaller towns, I found that generally pretty ethical. People wanted you to be successful. People were open. People were friendly. And they would do anything to help. And it fit my ethics, my style. The downside was you had to travel a little bit more. You have to be on the road a little bit more. And that's an issue. But if you can get over that, you realize how wonderful a place what we call hometowns, smaller communities are. And that opportunity in Navasota, which led to a series of 12 Tractor Supplies, introduced me to the beauty and the wonder of these smaller communities where we could do something to bring jobs, to improve quality of life in these smaller communities, to make a difference. That propelled my business forward. So that was one thing that made a big difference. A second one was our first deal that we did with outside investors, and that was in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And this was after the great financial crash in 2010. I was a small town, and the mall was available for sale by CBL. And adjacent to the mall was an empty Kroger box, and TJ Maxx was interested in either the Kroger box or the mall. And I decided, let's buy them both so we would capture TJ Maxx in one of the two. I went through that process of buying them both, and I realized that I could get local business leaders in Vicksburg, Mississippi to be part of the equity, and I could get a bank, a community bank that had a heart for Vicksburg to be our lender. And I put together this community-oriented strategy. That was the first one in Vicksburg. Local investors, local lender, and that is a way to improve returns and lower risk for an asset. We're experts at shopping centers. We're experts at leasing and property management and accounting, finance, and construction management. But these properties have exposure to community issues. And if we can get local business leaders to be part of our team, it really helps the investment. It helps with local incentives, dealing with property taxes, with entitlements, with consents from the city or county or parish. And oftentimes our investors are piped into the community. They're on the board of the hospital district or the community college or the economic development district. So if you buy a large tract like a mall, oftentimes these malls are too big for retail. So you shrink the amount of retail and you do something else. And that something else, our local investors know better than anybody what some of those something else's could be. What are the needs? Who needs, multifamily or a hotel or a medical clinic or a sports complex? And so effectively, our local lender and our local investors are deputized leasing agents for alternative uses. So Vicksburg was the creation of this concept, not just local investors, local lender, but we bought two properties, TJ Maxx went into the Kroger. Both of them turned out to be very good deals. So we will go into a market and sometimes we'll buy a second property so we can monopolize the market. 1 + 1 = 3. So it was a profound moment for Rockstep that we started this strategy of community engagement with community conversations with the local political leaders, local investors, community bank lender. And we've repeated this over a dozen times. And it has helped us create better quality of life for these communities. It's helped us manage risk in multiple ways. And it is the way we want to go forward when we can identify a great enclosed mall opportunity in a strong hometown.